Hello one and all, and welcome to a very special little video on my part. I am the Maxoffewtrades. As you may or may not be completely aware of, I work on the internet series Death Battle as a freelance researcher. And I have been doing it for quite the while now, since 2013 in fact. And I also don't know if you know this, but the show very recently hit its 100th episode, if you can even believe it. It's pretty nutso. It's really hard to believe that it's gone so far, and we've done so much, and it's so awesome. So I decided I would make a little video thingy explaining my past, my present, and hopeful future for Death Battle, and my part in it. So I'll try to keep this quick and breezy. I don't want to bog people down too much. But, yeah, let's start from the beginning. So I realize it's probably kind of weird to talk about my history with Death Battle by starting with how things were before I even knew the show existed, but I feel it helps with the context of some of the later things I want to say. Basically, when I was a whole lot younger, I always seemed to have the ability to remember just about roughly everything I see, as long as I'm invested in it. And I didn't realize that this wasn't something most people could do until very, very later in life. And I had no idea what kind of advantage it gave me when it came to recalling esoteric trivia about, you know, characters in fiction. Very few people would ever really find that to be a useful ability in any regard, but it's always been like the thing that I've actually been the best at. And in all of my skill set, I feel like that's probably the thing I'm most confident in saying I'm good at, is remembering things. It's a weird thing to say, but that's the facts. And that'll come up later, but it's important that you know that. Basically, way back when, and even to an extent to this very day, I don't really click with people too well. I try my hardest to be sociable and kind, but I always find it hard to, I don't know, establish connections. I always come off as kind of strange or overbearing to most people. So I never really had a lot of friends or relationships. I mostly stuck to myself, which is why I played so many video games and watched so many cartoons and movies and things of that nature. So I've always had that in me, and even if you look back far enough, I was a big fan of shows like Deadliest Warrior and Celebrity Deathmatch, where, you know, basically it's exactly what Death Battle ultimately became, except, you know, with a lot more science involved, obviously. So, way back when, and I believe, I don't even know how long ago, man, 2009, 2010 maybe? I somehow, one way or another, stumbled upon Screw Attack, but not by the channel itself. Back then, they posted a lot of their videos on a website called Game Trailers. They posted top 10 lists, they posted video game vaults, and that's also where they put Angry Video Game Nerd videos, back when he was affiliated with them. So I would always go there, and I'd watch them, and I would enjoy them, and it was great, and it was awesome. Over time, though, eventually the output obviously kind of slowed down and eventually stopped entirely because Game Trailers kind of stopped being a thing altogether. So I ended up actually going to their website for, like, the first time. I just kind of assumed they put everything they made there, so I didn't think there would be anything surprising or new or anything, but I wanted to still see the videos, obviously. So I went on over and I noticed that their newest video was something called Death Battle. Yoshi, which I just so happen to actually have right here, versus Riptor of Killer Instinct. Admittedly, I didn't know much about Killer Instinct at the time, but obviously the thumbnail alone is enough to pique a few eyebrows, I'd say. And I thought, interesting, I think I'll watch this. And so I did. And it was amazing. And it was truly something special. I feel like I might be the only person to have Yoshi vs. Riptor be their introduction to the series, which is a very interesting one to start with, but that being said, I went back and watched all the ones that came out before it. There weren't many back then. And I considered myself a casual fan of the entire situation. I didn't really take the show seriously at the time, because I didn't think that they were taking things seriously, because my prior experiences to shows like this always added a lot of objectivity or bias to things, and they just sort of, you know, did what they thought would be the coolest or funniest outcome, and that's basically what dictated the winners, I figured at the time. It wasn't until one of my, to this day, top 10 favorite Death Battle episodes ever, Starscream vs. Rainbow Dash, came out that I realized that they actually did take this seriously, because they got a lot of flack for letting a pony defeat a Transformer, as you would obviously assume. So, they wouldn't have done that if they didn't care, if they were just doing what they thought would be the most popular or funny or interesting outcome. They wouldn't have done that, because obviously there was backlash to it. And that was the episode that really made me realize just how much they were actually trying to answer questions about combat and between fictional characters and everything, and that's something I've always been interested in my entire life. And I just never found anybody that took it to the level that they did. So at that point I became a very loyal fan to the entire thing. I was there for all of the original early milestones. I remember back when Dr. Eggman vs. Dr. Wily was coming out, and they would upload small little snippets showing which Robot Masters and Badniks would be put into the fight, which sides they'd have. It was like, oh, this one has Gutsman and E101 Beta, and this other one is like, oh, Scratch and Grounder and Sheepman, that's so cool. So, and obviously I was there for the insane wait that plagued the original Superman vs. Goku, and how it kept getting delayed. For obvious reasons, it was a huge undertaking, and it was after that episode finally came out that I noticed a certain blog called the Official Death Battle Fan Blog. I don't know if they were official at the time yet. I think, no, they were just the Death Battle Fan Blog at the time. And they were having like a write-in sort of thing, where we were basically going to thank the creators, you know, at the time it was just pretty much Ben and Chad at the time, but thanking them for all the work they put in and just how much it meant to us. And I thought, I mean, they probably won't put my thing in there, but, because, spoiler alert, I have very low self-confidence. So I was like, why not? I'll throw something out there. And so I ended up writing a pretty lengthy amount of stuff about why I liked the show, what it meant to me, why I watch it, and, you know, such things. And apparently, unbeknownst to me, at the time, two people took interest in what I wrote. The first one was basically the quote-unquote leader of the fan blog at the time, who liked what I had to say and said asked me if I wanted to join them. And I figured, well, dang, sure, inclusion. Yay! Maybe friends? I don't know. So I threw myself in there, and yeah, I started working around, and then eventually I got another message that I never in a million years would have thought I would have gotten. It was from the creator of Death Battle. It was Ben Singer, who asked me, and I don't even think he was aware that I was part of the fan blog at the time. I think he also read what I wrote and thought it was interesting and wanted to include me in addition to the fan blog as volunteer researchers, where we would help, you know, gather information and give it to them to help speed up and make the whole process a whole lot easier. Because as you might know, things just, as the show kept going, things just get more and more complicated, and nowadays we've got a ton of people working on it, which is awesome. But at the time, he just realized, man, after Superman vs. Goku, I realized if this show's gonna keep going, I can't do it on my own. That's just insane. So, obviously, being the fan that I was, I jumped to it. Okay, I don't know how this is gonna turn out, but I definitely have to try. So, I did. And the first episode I ended up helping on at all was He-Man vs. Lion-O. And I was also really, really proud, because one of the jokes I wrote in my notes that I sent to them got into the episode itself. And that blew my mind. It's like, they read it, and they liked it, and they used it, and it just made me feel so great. The specific joke was the fact that in Lion-O's rundown, in my notes, I referred to his outfit as a manly sports bra and wrestling shorts, because I thought that was funny. And then that was in the episode, and I just, woo! It was awesome. So that's kind of how it was for a good while. Every now and then I'd get emails like, hey, we're doing Strider versus Ryu Hayabusa, or we're doing Shao Kahn and M. Bison, or Fox McCloud and Bucky O'Hare. So get out there and gather as much information as you can and send it my way. And so I did. I kept on going. And the thing is, it was a lot of fun. I loved it, and I'd be more than happy to have continued doing just that for all this time. However, admittedly, eventually there was a point where we had a lot of communication errors, I guess? It's kind of hard to explain, and I don't have all the details, so it's not really my place to say. But basically, the ultimate decision was we need to firmly more establish a line of communication so that there's not any, you know, misunderstandings between notes or, you know, contrasting, comparing and things. So we were brought on as actually, well, not all of us. A few people decided that, no, it's time to bow out, and perfectly respectable, totally cool. But they decided that it was time to take this volunteer research group and make them an official research group. It was still voluntary, but we were basically actually part of the team. We got to start talking with people, you know, actually with the show on a consistent basis, and it was really crazy, because before we just, you know, they sent us an email, we sent an email back, that was pretty much the full extent of it, basically, and it got a whole lot more concrete and factual, because I could just send a message, and then I'd get one back almost immediately from them, and it was able to help us make even better, you know, calls, and make everything flow together and work together way better. So that was great. And that was around, I believe, the first episode with this really solid communication was Mewtwo versus Shadow. And from, I think that was 2015. Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah, I think it would have had to have been. Maybe 2016. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. The point is, we kept going. We kept helping. We kept working. At that point, I actually had to start signing some non-disclosure agreements, so that if we're gonna tell you things, and you better not tell anybody else about these things unless we say it's okay. And I was like, whoa, I don't want to step on any toes. I don't want to lose this. This is the best job. So gladly went through all those hoops and the like. I eventually actually started being even paid for some of the work I do, which I never in a million years thought would happen. And it's absolutely bananas that everything happened. And I'm still working on the show to this day. I'm still getting episodes assigned to me that I'm working on, and I'm trying to do my very best to make sure all the episodes are as good as I can possibly help make them. The thing is, and this is, I guess, let's take a step down. Again, about my self-confidence issues. I have a hard time feeling like I deserve what I have. I find it hard to believe that I'm good enough at this to keep around. I've always found myself to be the most potentially expendable, I guess, resource. Like, you could cut me out of the equation and it really wouldn't amount to much. And that's just sort of my problem. You know, it's just a mind thing. It happens. And I realize that, I mean, they've kept me around for about 5 years now, so I imagine if they didn't want me, they would have gotten rid of me by now, but besides the point, I suppose. I always kind of put these people, even my other researchers, on a higher pedestal than me, as someone, like, way more important, way better, way more interesting in everything in comparison to me, and I'm just some kind of weird guy sitting in the corner, just kind of shuffling and pushing my notepad onto a desk and running away. That's kind of how I've been approaching things for a very long time, and I know that that's not right, but I feel it important to point that out, because this is basically the real point I want to get to, and I feel like the most important part of the video. I just wanted to talk about what this show has done for me. While I'm still not so confident in myself, while I'm still not as social as I want to be, while I'm not as much of the person I want to be yet. This show has helped me improve things about myself and made me learn things about myself that I never would have known otherwise. Like I was saying in the beginning of the video, I always felt kind of like an outsider to the world. Nobody really shared my dedicated interests, and with my crazy memory, I would always talk about things and people wouldn't understand, or they wouldn't have remembered things with such clarity. They didn't mean as much. So I always felt I was kind of on my own, completely alone. That I had nowhere that would accept me in any capacity. That's just kind of how it's always been. And even for a long time while I was working on the show, you know, I still felt like, yeah, I'm here, but, you know, I'm barely anything. You know, I'm a tiny, itty-bitty little piece in things. There's no reason to ever get a big head about anything. It wasn't until I mustered up all the courage I possibly could. And I went to the very final SGC convention that there ever was. That was the one they premiered, you know, Goku vs. Superman 2 at. I was terrified. I had never traveled that far before from my home. I like my closed, encased area. I like being where I am. I like being safe, feeling safe. So getting in a plane and flying over to a different state was absolutely nerve-wracking as all get out. And because I paid for basically, like, I don't know, it's like a platinum tier thing, like the most features you can get, I had an invitation to, like, a before con party. And I didn't want to go because I was terrified of making myself look like a fool in front of these people. This would be the first time they'd ever even actually seen me. They knew of me, but they hadn't really established, they really hadn't known who I am, what, you know, and all that. It was just insane. But I was ultimately coaxed by my own mother, of all people, to go, and I nervously shuffled my way over to the place where this pre-party was happening, and I slowly, cautiously approached, you know, Ben and Chad and Torian and even Marissa Lenti, who casts voices for the show now. And I thought, man, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't even be doing this. And then all of a sudden, Marissa, like, looks over and she recognizes me. And she's like, it's Max! And I'm like, oh. She's like, she's like, get over here. And then everyone's like, I properly introduced myself to everybody. I was an awkward, stumbling mess. Like, Torian asked for a handshake. It's like, hey, my man. And I was like, I am? What? I was just so nervous and terrified. But I got some pictures with them. I talked with them a bit. It really made me realize how much they actually appreciated having me. And I had never really felt that before. It was really crazy. And, you know, I went around through SGC the entire time. I went to panels, I saw things, I talked to them again, you know, when they were walking around. And they're just normal people. I know that sounds obvious to people, but to me it just was something else entirely. It was realizing that I am worth more than I think I am. These were people that actually were glad to see me, to talk to me, to, you know, take pictures with me. It was surreal. I had never felt that way about anything before. I've never had that. I was a longtime sufferer of constant mocking and bullying in school because of the way I am. I'm just a different person. I like to keep to myself. I said I don't try to cause a fuss. I don't try to cause problems. I just want to be myself. And some people get intimidated by that, and they decided to bear down on me the entire time. So my entire life had been like that. So to meet people who cared at all really affected me in a way I didn't really expect. And even after I had come home from the convention and everything, it was just I had ever so slightly, I had a bit more self-confidence in myself. It wasn't a ton, but it was a good first step. So really, what I wanted to get to is, like, that's one of my most powerful memories, because I feel like it's changed the very course of my life. Being involved with this silly internet show has changed my life in massive ways, all for the better. I mean, sure, I still get sometimes some interesting messages from people upset about certain outcomes of certain episodes, but they're far and few between. Oh, and that's right, because back then I was still doing reaction videos of the episodes as they came out, and they talked about how they watched them, and how they liked them, and how they thought I was good at it, and I was just... ugh. It was so weird, but it was great. And from that day forward, I guess I'm trying to put myself out there a bit more. I might be going a little too far at times. I'm trying really hard to show how much I'm worth to people. Like I'm not betraying the trust they gave me by letting me in the first place. And I guess I can get a bit overly ambitious at times, but these are problems I've never had before. And it's interesting that I'm having them, and I'm improving, and I'm getting better. This show means so much to me for everything that it's done. And for as long as they're willing to have me, I'm more than happy to stay. And I'll keep helping the best I can in any way whatsoever. I don't really know how else to put it. I'm not sure how many people are affected by anything quite like how I've been affected by something I guess a lot of people would consider so strange. Death Battle has been my first job. This is the first place I felt like there were other people that kind of thought the same way I do. The first time I felt like I belonged anywhere. Schmaltzy, yeah, I know, but that's just the facts. And to everybody who works on the show, Ben Singer, Chad James, Sean, and Sam, and Nick, and Gerardo, and Torian, and Luis, and everybody. Brandon. There's so many people now, it's insane. Genevieve, I think your name is. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. I just appreciate each and every one of you so much for just giving me a place that I can be me. And that's all I really have to say. I don't really entirely know what this little video accomplishes. Just, I wanted to point out how much everything really means. And I find it important to have that air cleared out and put my feelings on the whole table. So, if you watched this, thank you very much. I appreciate it greatly. I know it's kind of weird, a weird little video. I won't do a lot of these sort of things, but it's just something that I felt was right. Now is a very good time to do it. And, hey, here's to hopefully another 100 episodes. And hopefully I'll be with them until then. Take care.